Are we ready to begin?
Yes, sir. I'm
Yes,
ready.
sir. Right ahead.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Well, a good evening to everyone. It is good for us to be sharing together again like this. A little different this evening since we are not working with a panel, but I am the presenter for this evening. And as you would have heard before, I am Sean Major-Campbell, Rector Christ Church Vineyard Town. And this evening we are continuing really on what we started last week, human sexuality and the church, a journey into understanding more about our humanity. And we are looking this evening at gender and sexual diversity, part 1. I wonder if most of the persons here this evening were present last week. And feel free to talk back to me, sisters and brothers.
I was present.
Okay.
Derek Aarons was present.
Okay.
Sonia wasn't present.
Okay.
Dawn was absent.
Mm-hmm.
You speak.
Elsie and John were there.
Ah.
Marcia was present.
Norma was present.
Okay. So
First
last
time
week,
joining for Sophia.
okay. Last week we heard much about human sexuality. This evening, we will just revisit the topic as we seek to reflect some more on this very important dimension of human identity and experience. Father Kirk, you're admitting persons in the room, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. Yes, so this evening we will just revisit the topic as we seek to reflect some more on the topic and kind of go deeper in issues around the topic. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you that we are created in your image, free to make choices to love, to create, to reason, and to live in harmony with creation and with you, O God. Grant that we may truly live in accordance with the new command of our Lord Jesus Christ. Love one another as I have loved you. We thank you for the capacity of unconditional love and seek only your grace as we live in Christ day by day. Amen. Gender and sexual diversity is about all human beings. It is not about a particular group of persons. Gender and sexual diversity, also referred to in short as GSD. Two important questions. This evening's engagement will look more deeply into some aspects of gender and the sexual diversity, or GSD. We will look at gender identity and sexual expression. What is gender identity? What is sexual expression? Consider this. And here we're not doing a study of this text in any detail right now, but in the Bible, we see evidence that it was not always easy to welcome sexual minorities. in Deuteronomy 23, verse 1. He that is wounded in the stones, or hath his privy member cut off, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Another version says, if a man's testicles are crushed or his penis is cut off, he may not be admitted to the assembly of the Lord. Anybody here hearing that verse for the first time?
Why don't you do this tablet?
I certainly am. I don't recall even hearing
Yes,
it before.
very much first time.
Okay. And notice I say in the Bible, we see evidence that it was not always easy to welcome sexual minorities. I'm also going to invite you, feel free, if I use any expression that you are not clear on, feel free to ask for clarity if clarity is not given. So in a sense, this verse is referring to someone who has been castrated. Important notes. We are not doing the study of a Bible passage in the traditional sense. The Bible does not contain studies or presentations on GSD. Remember what GSD is? Gender and sexual diversity. Instead, we are looking at contemporary engagement of human sexuality and how we as church may navigate this long ignored area of human experience. We are also doing so with the knowledge that we are wonderfully made by God. So what do we remember from last week? What is human sexuality? Human sexuality is the way people experience and express themselves sexually. This involves biological, erotic, physical, emotional, social, or spiritual feelings and behaviors. Because it is a broad term which has varied with historical contexts over time, it lacks a precise definition. Another approach to it, sexuality is one of the fundamental drives behind everyone's feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. It defines the means of biological reproduction, describes psychological and sociological representations of self, and orients a person's attraction to others. Further, it shapes the brain and body to be pleasure-seeking. Yet, as important as sexuality is to being human, it is often viewed as a taboo topic for personal or scientific inquiry. Sex makes the world go round. It makes babies bond, children giggle, adolescents flirt, and adults have babies. It is addressed in the holy books of the world's great religions, and it infiltrates every part of society. It influences the way we dress, joke, and talk. In many ways, sex defines who we are. It is so important. The eminent neuropsychologist Carl Pribram described sex as one of our 4 basic human drive states. Drive states motivate us to accomplish goals. They are linked to our survival. According to Pribram, feeding, fighting, fleeing, and sex are the 4 drives behind every thought, feeling, and behavior. Since these drives are so closely associated with our psychological and physical health, you might assume people would study, understand, and discuss them openly. Your assumption would be generally correct for 3 of the 4 drives. Can you guess which drive is the least understood and openly discussed? So nobody is able to guess.
Feeding,
Out of the
feeding,
four,
Okay, somebody thinks feeding. Anybody else?
sexuality.
So according to program, feeding, fighting, fleeing, and sex are the 4 drives behind every thought, feeling, and behavior. Yeah?
mhm,
Since these drives are so closely associated with our psychological and physical health, you might assume people would study, understand, and discuss them openly.
mhm.
Your assumption would be generally correct for 3 of the 4 drives. Can you guess which drive is the least understood and openly discussed?
But point,
Sex.
Vincent here.
Uh-huh.
I am not seeing that people discuss something openly. Well, I expect that the answer is sex.
Mm-hmm.
But from my experience, I'm not seeing that people set out or generally do discuss the fighting as some and fleeing and feeding. I don't see these as so significantly different in terms of their interest as a topic for discussion.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Using case studies, Austrian psychologist Sigmund Freud is credited with being the first scientist to link sex to healthy development and to recognize humans as being sexual throughout their lifespans, including childhood. Freud argued that people progress through 5 stages of psychosexual development: oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital. According to Freud, each of these stages could be passed through in a healthy or unhealthy manner. In unhealthy manners, people might develop psychological problems such as frigidity, impotence, or anal retentiveness. The American biologist Alfred Kinsey is commonly referred to as the father of human sexuality research. Kinsey was a world-renowned expert on wasps, but later changed his focus to the study of humans. This shift happened because he wanted to teach a course on marriage, but found the data on human sexual behavior lacking. He believed that sexual knowledge was the product of guesswork and had never really been studied systematically or in an unbiased way. He decided to collect information himself using the survey method and set a goal of interviewing 100,000 people about their sexual histories. Although he fell short of his goal, he still managed to collect 18,000 interviews. Many behind closed doors behaviors investigated by contemporary scientists are based on Kinsey's seminal work. Today, a broad range of scientific research on sexuality continues. It's a topic that spans various disciplines, including anthropology, biology, neurology, psychology, and sociology. And just to note at this point, we are not going to be getting all heavily academic and a lot of reading and a lot of words. We're doing a number of different things this evening as we go through this topic. Important to note though, as clergy or lay leaders or members in the pews, we are often used to holding very strong positions and assumptions based on how our socialization has been informed by our theological understanding of various subjects. Give yourself a chance to listen to different perspectives, although this does not mean that you must accept perspectives which are different from your own. This presentation gives us a chance to listen to the experience and lived reality of others. This information also equips us with knowledge regarding the literary expressions many mental health practitioners and social scientists use in the field. We will take a peek at some cartoons. I want you to consider these questions as we look at the cartoons. This is cartoons from newspapers now. What are some thoughts that come to your mind as you look at them? What may be assumed is the intention of the cartoonists? How might the media influence public opinions and feelings? That's clear for everybody? Am I being heard?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
How would you
Yes,
critique this cartoon? And here the cartoonist is showing supposedly Christchurch, and that is supposed to be yours truly standing at the door of the church. Pastor, we're tired of the gully now. Can we seek refuge in your church?
Well, those are apparently gay men who used to live in the gully and appealing to you because you have spoken out on their behalf as regards people needing to have good living conditions.
Hmm?
Probably lending an helping hand to people and accepting people of different probably different, what's the word, personality or what they believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sexual persuasion.
Yes.
That,
Any
that
concerns about the cartoon, the presentation? Anything you notice?
There's like
Anything you think should be pointed out?
there's like a weird poster or something beside the lady in the purple shirt on the floor. Like, what does that mean or represent?
You mean the newspaper?
Oh,
yes, the paper on the floor. On the,
Okay. I will quickly see if I find it back online so I can tell you what it says. But in the meantime, I just want to hear thoughts.
Okay,
The church.
this is Garfield Campbell, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of how um, people of somebody just mentioned the lady in the purple. I think those are meant to be two men.
Correct. Correct.
I find it quite, should I say, concerning that the cartoonist decided to depict people um, of homosexual persuasion to always, that's always the image we get, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody who is a homosexual likes to cross dress or so on and so forth. That's one. Two, I like the depiction that people feel that there's a church where they can find a place of refuge. I
Okay.
think that's important. I think that should be good. But also, it's a little disturbing the fact that you're just peeping out and holding the
Yes.
door half
Yes.
shut.
Yes.
As if you're not too sure or people are not too welcome. You have to check their bona fides before they're let in. Or maybe you don't want the other people behind the door to see them, kind of a thing. They're sort of welcome, but not fully.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just, I'm going to stop there. I've lots more.
Okay.
And I don't want to continue on that, Dawn. The church is in the community, and it seems as if you have been reaching out to them, and because I think they said they are tired, so they are now coming. But
And
you're a bit surprised. I'm saying you, the minister
yeah, understood.
is a bit surprised that they really arrived. They really, answered and visit to the church. And when I looked at them first, I really did not see as homosexuals. I saw them as two people not properly dressed because that's all they have, with the tool bags on the end of the stick. They didn't have a suitcase or much. So hence
Okay.
what they had is what they just put on. And then I looked and I see like a lengthier hair, the shorter hair. So I really thought it was a man and a woman.
Okay. The paper on the ground it actually says, Pastor lashes out at injustices faced by gays.
Right. So
Good
you
night,
have been visiting them.
Good evening.
I'm Allison. What my thoughts are on this cartoon is that because pastor, as in you, have is trying to let the society know that as it's our Christian duty / responsibility to accept all. So these gays / transvestites are coming not only just to worship. For me, they're not coming to worship. They're coming to move in because they have their position.
Okay. Just to note, by the way, that the focus originally was really just the homeless youth
Right.
who were seeking refuge in the gullies. But
Right.
then that revealed that a number of LGBT youth also found refuge there.
Right.
And to add on to what someone just said about society, it could also mean, because it could head on to like new world order, or just for a deeper side, society want Christian, want one world religion, want us to accept people who lean onto what other people don't like, or don't agree with, not even like, but don't agree with, right? Because not everyone agree with that, based on Christianity and so on. Not all denomination, sorry. But yeah, so society want the pastor to accept, or they go into the pastor to just accept what they are offering or what they look like, if that makes sense.
Okay. Moving on. Can you identify any harmful rhetoric in this cartoon?
The whole cartoon is harmful.
What word you use there, Audrey? The whole cartoon is
Harmful.
okay.
Because,
Yes.
because I mean, the way they have depicted,
And this is a Clovis.
right, the way they have depicted the entire thing is most disgusting, frankly. They have dressed up a supposed homosexual like a puppy show.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it
and
stereotypes.
yes, and it shows
Yes.
a total lack of respect for people who are different from the cartoonists.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would like to agree very much with Audrey, Sean, from the very
Mm-hmm.
first, Garfield Campbell, from the very first uh, cartoon that you show, because it reinforces a particular stereotype, and reinforces very negative thinking, um, and it tends to inflame passions. That is, so people's view of who are homosexuals and stuff is not broadened or widened, but keep in this narrow thing
Mm-hmm.
that it is always people who just looking outrageous. Um,
So it reinforces stigma and discrimination.
Discrimination.
yeah,
That's the term I'm looking for, which doesn't help to further and broaden the conversation um, about really just treating people as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and frankly, I'm sure that that is exactly what the cartoonist's intention was, not to broaden the conversation,
Correct. That is
but
right.
just to caricature the entire thing. You know, and it really is distressing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it is so inhuman because
Yes.
they making persons look ridiculous. And,
Yeah,
and, and,
and,
and
and I
it's
mean,
not, it really is
Not
unreal.
true. It's not true.
It's
So the media
unreal.
actually has the power to reinforce prejudices.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
By the picture they paint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're making a serious topic for discussion out to be a joke,
Correct.
you know?
Yes, a
Yes.
caricature of a thing.
Yeah,
In other
yeah.
words, I mean, this thing not sensible, so nobody give it any time.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. A view to ponder. Clovis.
Also,
Uh-huh.
Kimberly here.
Mm-hmm.
Notice the newspaper says the bug law,
Mm-hmm.
and that speaks to anal penetration. So you know
Mm-hmm.
that is only one letter from the acronym from the LG and so forth. That only speaks to one aspect of it, which is also discriminating against homosexuals, because then you're only looking at, notice how they paint the picture, only looking at it from one point of view. If you see the man, he's in a height,
Mm-hmm.
his leg is, and so you're seeing all of that. You only see it from one person.
Thank you. So a view to ponder. Clovis himself, this is the cartoonist, is known for his portrayal of homosexual males as bleached face, cross-dressing deviant humanoids, and often sensationalizes issues relating to gay rights. The effect of Clovis's unfair depictions of gay men is that many Jamaicans walk away with the totally incorrect perception that gay men are all aggressive, flamboyant, deviant, and effeminate, and are therefore people to be feared, hated, and eradicated. Some words from Cleon John of Antillean Media Group.
Yeah.
Again, our socialized response is to smile upon seeing this. So the little boy says, Mama, I don't afraid of no junk no again. And then on the other side of the cartoon is that me afraid of.
Okay.
What is this saying and not saying?
Probably society, or what society thinks, or what's the right word, like what certain people believe in, or what they accept or don't accept in that culture. Yeah.
Well, growing up as a child, I used to be very afraid of junkaners. So what this is saying is that junkanon is now not anything fearful for children, but they have been socialized to fear homosexuals or cross-dressers or whatever.
And something else that an impact on the mind that this can have without stating it is that a child should always fear someone who is gay.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, Sean, to equate homosexuality with pedophilia.
Exactly.
It's terrible. Because a pedophile sexuality doesn't, sexual orientation is of no consequence to pedophiles. And it's reinforcing a kind of stereotypical thinking that we have.
And let me illustrate something that reminded me how dangerous this is. I was invited about 3 summers ago to address some children in a summer program in Standpipe, in a city community. And when I went and I was talking with the children, I said to them, I just, kind of diving, and I said to them, well, you all look like you're having a wonderful time and you're having a great summer. And one of the good things about children is that they don't have anything to worry about. And one little girl said, no, sir, we have things to worry about. And I said, like what? And she said, them rape we. And I said, is that so? So, you tell your parents, is who do that? Who did that around here? And the little girl used the Jamaican, wait, let me just wait for that background sound to be muted.
On the chair, who is telling him what to say, is the parliamentarian of the Senate.
Kirk, are you able to mute?
Sounds like a TV.
And what she essentially was saying
but it's coming from somebody's audio. Okay. Okay, so we are back again. Yes, so there I was with these children, and the girl responded using the Jamaican pejorative for a gay man, and she said, the batty man them rape we saw. So I asked her how she knew that. And she said that the way she know that is because of inner them bottom. It was anal rape, anal sex. Now, if the truth is, in any society, Jamaica being no exception, most of the anal sex that is taking place would be of a heterosexual nature than actually a homosexual nature. And if you have children believing that they should not become suspicious of somebody who is supposedly heterosexual, just think of the potential danger that that child is in just by being misinformed. You with me there? Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we're hearing.
Okay, just have to check. All right, so just something to think about, how dangerous stereotyping is and how it's not good for our children.
May
Who
I
can
say
interpret
something?
this last May cartoon on gay bashing in Jamaica? Oh, somebody wanted to say something?
Yes, Sonia here. I just
Mhm.
wanted to say, um, in some Muslim countries, the boys are allowed to practice sex on their sisters using anal sex so that the hymen is not torn, and it is a way of life so that when she is betrothed, she will be seen as a virgin, and it is an accepted thing. My daughter had a friend who went to a Muslim school, a Pakistani, and he told her that that was one of I don't know if it's a general practice or it is a particular tribe or if it is what, or which level, but he told her that that was a form, a practice that was carried out.
Well, I don't want to frighten you, but maybe that tribe is in Jamaica because we now know
That's why I said it,
from
Father.
research that right here in Jamaica, there are many young Christian girls who have anal sex because they are supposedly preserving their virginity until marriage.
Right.
So that
Yes.
tribe is in Jamaica.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So interpret this last May cartoon on gay bashing in Jamaica.
Charter of rights is for everybody except the gays.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're
I
out in the
think it
sun.
means that they have rights just like everybody else. They are covered under the umbrella of charters of rights.
But the umbrella
But look
is
at the top of their umbrella.
the umbrella
But
leaves.
the
The inside
other
and whole,
person,
they're
yeah.
not covered.
Yes.
And sometimes what happens is there may be some degree of theoretical coverage, but in practical cultural realization, that's not happening.
Right. Yes. There's a facade. It is
Mm-hmm.
just carrying out the facade that yes, man, you are protected.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, they are the only ones who are left open to all the bruises.
Mm-hmm. Now we are going to shift gears a bit. What kind of soup do you like? How do you like your pea soup or your chicken soup? So for example, some people, although they like chicken soup, I know people who know what's no chicken foot in their soup at all. And some people, they will have the chicken foot soup, but don't put the chicken foot in their bowl. Let me hear you on your soup. Anybody?
I don't really like the look of chicken foot, but I actually eat it.
Okay.
And I love red pea soup with pig's tail.
Mm-hmm. And some people don't like it with no pigtail at all.
I know.
Love it with the pig's tail.
But they don't know what they're missing.
I like everything. I like the pig tail. I like the chicken foot. I like all soup. So nice
Okay.
and dainty.
Hmm. Well,
I like red pea soup a lot. I love soup generally, red pea soup. But I think chicken should not cook red pea soup. But I will still drink it even though I don't like it with the chicken. I will still have it.
Okay. Hmm.
I would say chicken foot soup.
Okay. Well, we are going to look at what is called U soup, understanding diversity and the intersections of identity. Intersections of identity. So the idea of U soup is that we have the base and broth, which would contain ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, disability status. In other words, some very basic things that make up your U soup, make up you. Then there are some early additions to your U soup. Socioeconomic status, geographic location, education, family structure. Then there are optional things. You know, again, we talk about the soup. The soup, some things are optional for some people in the soup. Some people love okra in the soup. Some people know, so they don't want okra. Then they go make soup slimy and all kind of different things. Some people they enjoy chicken soup, but no chicken food going in it at all. By the way, anybody like chicken gizzard? I like chicken gizzard.
I love it.
Oh, yes, certainly.
I love chicken gizzard by itself.
And I always remember, you know, when I was a student at UTC, and one of my assignments was I was assigned to the Bishop of Kingston, Bishop Herman Spence, and it meant that anywhere you went on a Sunday morning, I was there.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something, one morning at one church, I think it was confirmation he was having, and he was talking about, you know, how you come to Jesus and you get yourself cleansed and so forth. And he said, you know, chicken gizzard nice, you know. You know how you go, you know, so you have to clean it off and you have to peel off that rough piece there.
Yes, yes.
And you wash it with lime and you
vinegar.
season it. Yes, and some people use vinegar and so forth.
Wash it.
But there, by the time the service finished, and our host invited us to lunch,
Gizzard.
one
Fried
big plate of
dumpling.
gizzard was on the table.
Fried dumpling and green banana.
And what the person didn't know is that although Bishop Herman was using chicken gizzard to illustrate, he was not a lover of gizzard. But I was sitting there and I was a lover of gizzard. You know?
Yes, Sunday morning special.
and I also don't mind it in my soup. You know? You know?
But
Yes,
you
so
can't
there's,
get it again. Originally you used to be able to get it back.
it depends on where you go. Because there are supermarkets in Jamaica that you can get a tray of gizzard.
Okay.
Because, you know, for example, there is such a thing, the Chinese 5-spice gizzard is a thing, you know. So there are some things that are optional. We could ask 5 persons in this group this evening to cook a pot of chicken soup. And while all of the soups would be quite nice and tasty in their own right, they would not be exactly the same. So some optional things in your you soup, in your identity, some optional things will be hobbies and passions, religion and faith, career, political beliefs. Then there are secret ingredients, personal experiences, hidden experiences. Yeah? How does that fit? How does that sound for us? Understanding so far?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Now I am introducing the gender-bred person to you. The gender person illustrates 4 key dimensions of a human being in relation to gender and sexuality. So have a look there at the gender-bred person. And you know, the gender-bred nomenclature is coming from the whole thing of gingerbread, the gingerbread man, right? But here we're not saying gingerbread man, we're saying the genderbread person, because we're not limiting this to any particular gender. So when you look at this diagram, what does it say to you? Anybody, anything, says anything in particular to you as you look at it?
it says that your maybe your how you identify yourself has nothing to do with your genitalia, apparently.
Well, it is definitely saying that gender identity takes place in the brain.
Brain, yes.
What else is it saying?
Attraction is in the heart.
Yes, and attraction has a lot to do with the whole matter of sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And what is happening in the genital area?
Every gender is there.
Mm-hmm. Because the genital area is often used to, on the face of it, determine biological sex.
Mm-hmm.
And what about that long line going around the side of the body? Sexual expression. Because the way we move and act and just the way you do your whole body, all of that has to do with expression and in particular sexual expression. So as we continue, we're going to be talking more about these different terms and the genderbread person. So gender identity in the brain, sexual orientation, the heart, biological sex is often used to determine gender or a relationship with gender, and then the matter of gender expression. What is meant by biological sex? It is a medical term used to refer to the chromosomal, hormonal, and anatomical characteristics that are used to classify an individual as female or male or intersex. And for those who were in our study last week, Dr. Aarons, the bioethicist, made reference to these terms also, because his presentation was informed not by his opinion, but by the scientific data. And one of the things we learn from science is how biological sex is determined. Now, traditionally, we tend to just define biological sex anatomically. That means just by what you see between the legs, just by what you see on the body.
Mm-hmm.
So when the nurse or the doctor says, it's a boy, it's a girl, they are simply doing that because they saw a penis or they saw a vagina. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
However, we now know that sometimes of what we see there may not necessarily correspond with the traditional understanding of the gender associated with what is seen. Are you with me there? Tell me if I'm losing you.
Mm-hmm. No, right there.
No, I'm clear.
Okay.
Yeah, with you.
So
And
sometimes,
also, Father Sean, there may also be confusion in appearance.
correct. I was coming to that too, to acknowledge that sometimes it is not quite clear, although something is there, it's not quite clear whether it is penis or vagina. In which case you have an intersex individual, intersex, but we'll talk more about that. But what we have found is that Sometimes an individual is born with, let's say, a penis. But sometimes as early as age 3, the individual says, I am not a boy, I am a girl, I don't want to wear that. I want you to put me in that instead. And then it raises the question, then what really is this child's biological sex? For some people, it is in their teens and their early adulthood that they come to think more deeply about how they have understood themselves. And so when the question of what is this person's biological sex really, when that comes up, science has proven that it is not always sufficient to just look at anatomy. Sometimes you have to look at chromosomes and look at hormones. That's clear for everybody?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
What is meant by intersex? It is a general term used for a variety of conditions in which a person is born with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that doesn't seem to fit the typical definitions of male or female. See if we feel comfortable with that. A general term used for a variety of conditions in which a person is born with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that doesn't seem to fit the typical definitions of male or female.
Father Sean, could you explain what they mean by a variety of conditions? Like, what could that possibly be? A variety of conditions.
Well,
you said they're going to born with a penis or a vagina. What else could that? What could the variety be?
Meaning variety of appearances of the sexual anatomy, of what is seen between the legs, so to speak.
Does that mean it's a they call it when they're born with the both male and female?
That's a different thing. You're talking about hermaphrodite. But that not necessarily so. Not necessarily.
So it would be more likely in the mental or what?
No, this is anatomy. This is body we're talking about, physical. This is not mental. And there is actually a statistic in terms of how many persons are born intersex out of, say, every 100,000 babies or births.
I don't understand at all.
Sorry,
Okay,
they don't born with a sexual organ. They don't born with a penis or a vagina.
Not in exactly the way we understand it, because when you look at it, it is not easily determined either ways.
Wow, that must be 0.5 in a million.
Well, I'm gonna have to look up that one. Pastor, give me homework.
It's 1 in every 2,000 newborns.
Correct. About that.
I think that's Dr. Aaron's, by the way, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Aarons. Dr. Aarons, you should take over from me here.
1 in every 2,000, but that's a
Newborns
lot.
worldwide, exactly.
It
and
is.
that's why we say you cannot discriminate against God's people. We don't know God's intention. So why has he made a certain percentage of persons to be born intersex? There's no clear characteristic in the external genitalia that tells you whether you see a penis or if you see a slit representing a vagina. It's just not clear at birth.
Wow.
Over to you, Father Sean.
Yes, I remember some years ago when the controversy came up about the South African athlete Caster Semenya.
Right.
And I had written an article entitled "The God's Semenya." And, you know, just acknowledging that We don't need to judge her with which she didn't have any control over the way she was born.
None whatsoever.
You know, but there are Christians who felt angry because of what I wrote, because they felt I should be writing to condemn her.
But why to condemn? I mean, it's so ridiculous.
You know,
She is a child of God.
now it is worthy of note that individuals whom I have seen for supportive counseling, they have come to me for supportive counseling, who are intersex. If they didn't say it to me, I would not know, because I couldn't look in their face and tell. But there are individuals who have lived with the challenge, the mental challenge of feeling condemned and judged and less than. And coming to see somebody who they feel will not judge them makes a big difference to their journey.
But you know, Sean, I can't imagine somebody who has to live like that. Really, just listen to the kind of confusion in our minds just now.
Yeah.
When you and Dr. Aaron's talking about this, you can't tell. I can't imagine how a person who is intersex, what they must be feeling and experiencing, and how they must be afraid to even go to the beach, to
And
put it as simple as that.
Yes, and the most misunderstood and oppressed group that many of us are not realizing is going through a rough time are transgender persons. Transgender persons. But we'll come to that.
And Father
Question.
Sean, Sophia's gonna speak.
Question. So because I'm not really understanding a little bit, but to put it in my own words so that is that okay for the intersect person?
To do what?
Okay, so for example, a female is born without a reproductive part, or is that what's the meaning of it?
If I may just speak on that matter,
Please.
Father Sean.
Yes.
You see, conceptually, we have been groomed by society to think in binary means, poles.
Right.
That is
Either
either
or.
one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
That you're either male or female, and therefore it causes confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Realize that there may be in-betweens in terms of just at birth, physical appearance. And so, as Father Garfield just even mentioned, going to the beach or etc., etc., it's because they have grown up in a society that have traditionally viewed them as having to fit into a binary position. You're either male or female. So they would feel uncomfortable going to the beach. If, for instance, they grew up in a society, as I mentioned at the start of my talk last week, there are certain communities, for instance, in the Dominican Republic, where it is accepted that there are going to be some intersect where you don't know. And so they would not have been expected to be either male or female. They're known to belong to this group.
Correct.
And they're groomed by society, growing up in this group. They're accepted as a norm of society.
Because let me tell you
Binary.
something, Dr. Aarons, I have been very impressed with the level of confidence that I have encountered in transgender persons from the Dominican context. And when you meet them in international conferences and hear them present and just own themselves and they own their identity, it is significant. Dr. Aaron's hearing me?
Oh, yes, I heard all of that.
Oh,
but
yes.
It doesn't need repeating. The fact is that we are thinking only binary. And if only we could change our mindset to say it's not binary. It's a spectrum where it is clear on one hand at birth that you have an extrusion that is a penis, and it is clear at the other end that it is female because you can see the external orifices of the vagina and so on. And then in between, is a continuum
Yeah,
of
intersex.
intersex, that it is not
Yes.
fixed at birth.
Yes.
Right, so
Yes.
can I ask a quick question, please? Is it that the father or the mother picked the type of gender that child would be? Or is
How?
it because remember you don't know if it's a female or a male. So it doesn't have a gender right there. So right there, so known
Oh,
gender. So does the family pick if it's a female or a male? Or does
sometimes
it,
in theory they do that, which is not the wise thing to do. But society tells you that you should choose.
so what if you say it's a male and then wanted to know that it turns out that he has hormones, female hormones
Well,
that certain age it
well,
start develop female hormones like breasts start growing big and stuff like that, which he has been a male
Right.
all the way coming up.
what I
Wouldn't that
have
be a
seen,
big brother?
yeah, what I have seen is that regardless of what they put down on the paper or the birth certificate, quite a number of individuals come to rebel against that.
And also, doctor, what if the opening like is inside, or the opening might be on the inside instead of the outside? Have they, you know, and later on they figure that out and so on?
Again, another important question, which is why you should not interfere at birth. Because in some societies, they actually perform surgery at birth. It's on what they think it should be, you know. So that's unfortunate. I think as Father Sean referred to, and as a gentleman just spoke, later on, when the internal hormones kick in, because at that time, they can't really see if deep below that skin, they're actually ovaries that are gonna start secreting female hormones.
Right.
Even though the external appearance may seem like that little protrusion may actually be a penis. They may actually deep inside the ovaries about to start functioning. And so you ought not to make a pronouncement at birth. Be willing to accept the intersex and see what happens as the child grows, rather than orient them a particular way and say, this is expected of you because you belong to this category, or this is expected of you because you appear to be a female, you ought to act a particular way. We don't know God's in wish for each person, how he will let those hormones interchange, because we all know as human beings, we really have a balance of female hormones and male hormones. Everybody has a smaller, all males have a small amount of estrogen. They just happen to have a preponderance of testosterone that gives them the male characteristics, and vice versa. But depending on the balance of those two hormones, you can have equal amounts and therefore have equal inclinations to be male in your disposition in some respects and female in other respects. And this is all God's doing. You know, we can't say you're born of the devil. You know, we can't question God's motives. This happens as a part of nature, and it is for us to accept our brothers and sisters that have come into the world naturally. Over to you, Father Shaw.
So, Sean, might I ask you a question on Dr. Aaron's? Dr. Aaron's made a very strong assertion that we're not sure what God is doing in persons who are intersex and have the different hormones and so on and so forth. And there are some people who will believe that such things are not of God. It is there, if you want to use a term broadly, a freak of nature. It is something that has gone wrong. How do you account then? Is it then that some of us are not made in that image and likeness of God? If you take the line that this is just not of God, God wouldn't do something like this.
And I would say that that has nothing to do necessarily with the image and likeness of God, because if you recall, in the Catechism, when we speak of the image and likeness of God, we are really not making a statement on physical attributes. We are making a statement on our capacity to create, to love, you know, to make certain choices, that kind of thing.
I want to say thank you on that point that you just made now. It's what you said, what he just said a while ago, and what you respond. I love that response because it's just human nature to say stuff that you find so amazing. You'll be like, oh my
Oh,
God,
they gone to bed?
it's the devil's child, you know, and yeah, it's just human nature. It's just human nature because some people will sick and the first thing comes, somebody obey them.
Yes, and let me
It's
go
just
back
human
to
nature.
let me go back to the prayer we started with at the beginning. Gracious God, we thank you that we are created in your image, free to make choices, to love, to create, to reason, and to live in harmony with creation and with you, O God. Grant that we may truly live in accordance with the new command of our Lord Jesus Christ to love one another as I have loved you. We thank you for the capacity of unconditional love and seek only your grace as we live in Christ day by day. Amen. Yeah.
Father Sean, as I'm listening, I am getting a little bit nervous because I have, some years ago, I have a friend, we are still friends, and I went to visit her after, a couple of days after her baby came home from the hospital. So while we're in the room and she gave the baby a bath in the pan, I looked and I said, after a while, I said to her, something not right, because I have two children. So I said, something not right. And we're close friends. And she asked, what? And I told her that I did not see a vagina or a penis. And she said she noticed something, her first child, she noticed something too. From the hospital, she pointed out to the doctors, but they said she's a girl. And a couple of days after I went back and I said, can I have a good look? And we looked, and we saw just a little opening. Nothing to say whether it's a girl or a boy. It's a little opening for vagina. So she went and she took the baby to the doctor. And short of it, up to now, we are not sure, or the mother is not sure, if it's a male or a female. They went to the hospital, she got treatment, hormonal treatments, and so on. She have breast full, she's like 31 years old now. That baby is about 31 years now.
How old was she when she started getting hormonal treatment?
Just before her period started. I remember her mother took her, I think maybe about 10 years old.
So they didn't wait for the period, no?
No, they did not wait for the period. But she grew breasts, and you're looking at her, she's a girl. There is no hair on the face, there's nothing like that. But that organ is just not there to say male or female.
Okay.
So she never had a period. I think she got a bit side from the family. She didn't integrate in the family as one because she knew she had this, I wouldn't call it defect, but she knew she was different. And she grew up and she is about 32 now. And she confided in me maybe about 2 or 3 years ago that she think she's attracted to females. No, I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know what to say to her. I just have to take it from the side of my Christian belief that God loves all people and so on and so forth. But still, I really don't know how to deal with it.
Yes.
And I have not gone back to her parent or her mother to say, how is she getting in? And she's,
And
so I'm a
this is
bit.
why This is why it's so important for us to have these conversations as church, and that we are having a conversation like this with a church group. So we are not afraid to face the realities, the broader challenging realities of human sexuality. This is part of why we could also do with serious, comprehensive sex education in schools.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, so that we don't have to get all hush and taboo and all these different approaches that we have around these matters.
I did not have
Dr.
information
Aarons?
to give. I did not have information to give. And she was relying on me as a family friend and to come to me to say, well, this is how I feel. And I'm not equipped.
Yes.
And financially to get the counseling and to, you know.
Thank you for sharing that with
I'm
us, Sean.
hampered.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Dawn, because you just described what appears to me to be a typical intersex person who was made into a female by injection of hormones into her, feminizing her in a way to produce periods, breasts, etc.
Correct.
But she was truly intersex.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
And if I might just use this opportunity to note that, you know, individuals who wish to have supportive counseling, you know, I make myself available. They don't have to have money to pay or anything like that. It's a part of the ministry that I do.
Okay.
Okay.
And one of the things one of the things I wanted to say, Father Sean, is I like the idea that this is a Christian group. And what we do know from traditional Christian.
And Wayne is a psychologist. Remind me where your practice is, Wayne.
I live in Virginia. I've been living in Virginia for about 18 years. I'm from Spanish Town, but living in Virginia for about 18 years now.
Okay.
And I also lecture at the very conservative Southern Baptist university called Liberty University. Some of you will hear about it. So some things I selectively choose what I say when I'm in those categories. But anyway, we are this is a Christian group, and I've said it before that I really appreciate the nature of how we do Bible study. Because when I was growing up in church in Jamaica, Bible study was basically another preaching, screaming down your throat, and you go home. What I like is that we're willing and able to dissect the things that we believe and look at it from a balanced perspective. Let us look at this and see, how does this fit my reality? How does this fit my experience? Now, most of us in the traditional Christian church, we believe you're either going to hell or you're going to heaven. Now, these people that we're discussing, I have had this, and I think I discussed it probably sometime last year in this study, that I had a situation brought to me where the child was born hermaphrodite, and the doctors gave the parent the option. How do you want to do this child? She already had 2 boys, and she said this is the last child, so she chose to raise the child as a girl. Pink dress, ribbons, pink room, girl. When the child turned 19, the child said, no, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. Everything in me says I'm a boy. Now keep in mind, the child has a penis and a vagina. The child chose at 19 that I am going to live as a boy because that's who I am, that's who I connect with. The child grew up, got married to a woman, and had a child. The child is now married to a woman and has a child. The question is, from a Christian perspective, where does this person's soul go? Are they going to hell or heaven? Because the truth is, there are 2 vaginas in the bed. Does that make the person lesbian?
That's right.
And that was a question that was posed at Liberty University in one of my classes. Somebody really honestly wanted to know. Now, if the person chose to be with a man, does that make them gay because they have a penis? Now, keep in mind, if we believe that it's either hell or heaven,
and everybody has a soul,
Mm-hmm.
you have to come up with an answer. Where does this person's soul go?
Mm-hmm.
That's one question. The other thing is, I have a client right now, grew up in church all his life, loved the Lord in ministry, and the parents are big in ministry. He came to me and said, Mr. Wayne, from the time I was 8, I knew I was different. I don't like girls. He's now 18. And he said, I have absolutely no attraction for a girl. A woman cannot do anything for me sexually. All I'm attracted to is my same gender. He has fasted, he has prayed, he has denied himself of food, he has bawled. He said, I've been on the floor before God, begging God to change me. The parents took him to Christian psychotherapy because there are some father issues, there are some psychological issues. He went to the therapy, he did all the homework. They took him to deliverance because it's a demon of homosexuality. They paid. The deliverance minister charged $100 per hour. And the young man said he was in there for 3 hours. So his parents had to write a check for $300 for them to cast out the demon of homosexuality. He said, Mr. Wayne, I am still same-sex attracted. The question is, what do I say to that young man? Do I say you should continue to do reparative therapy, or do I say to him, embrace yourself? The loving God who saw you fasting and praying, who saw you went to therapy and do all the homework that the therapist gave you, saw you sit in that deliverance session for 3 hours, why would he not do something about something that he thinks is so evil and nasty, and he sees all the efforts that you're making? What do I say to him? And he's a Christian, and right now he's afraid of his soul because he's going to hell, because his church teach that if you are same-sex attracted, hell is your destination. The thing is, the trauma that we cause people, the same kind of people we're talking about now, we need to think of the trauma that we can cause them when nothing they try to become what we think they should be to qualify for heaven is working. I'm really appreciative of the way we're able to discuss it openly as Christians and say, how do we relate to these people? Because they have a soul, and if you believe in heaven or hell, they're going to be traumatized.
Yeah.
Their destination.
Thank you for that sharing. Thank you for that. So we go look gender identity. What is gender identity? A person's deeply felt internal and individual experience of gender, which may or may not correspond with their biological sex assigned at birth. Take some time to read that or to listen to that again. It can take a little while to process what is gender identity, a person's deeply felt internal and individual experience of gender, which may or may not correspond with their biological sex assigned at birth.
Pastor, sorry, so sorry about that. I was thinking maybe it's the hormones. Maybe he has a female hormone. Because remember, it's not everybody born with a male or is everything from male. Just as you were saying, the gender, maybe he has female hormones.
Yeah, well, we all have, whether we are male or female, we all have both hormones.
You think so?
We're not talking about what I think, we're talking about what science tells us, and Dr. Aaron's the bioethicist is here.
Just said it.
We have born with both hormones, male and female hormones?
Yes. And it's not what I think, it's what actually is the case.
It's just that men have a greater amount of male hormones.
Right.
And women have a greater amount of female hormones.
Correct.
Dr. Aaron's just said too that there are some people who have like an equal balance
That is right too. Yes, there is that
Dr.
too.
Aaron is an MD trainer.
So as far as I see it is with that person that he's talking about, then he will not be going to hell. Because
Can I ask?
right? It would be the army. It would be the army to be blamed for that.
What's your name, person speaking?
I'm sorry, my apology. My name is Ricardo Watson.
Ricardo, this subject of hell and heaven is going to be for another time. But,
Okay, right.
but just to note, and maybe it will leave some persons doing some thinking. But I don't see hell and heaven as geographical locations.
True.
Definitely.
I see them as states of being.
Definitely.
And I don't know that God is waiting to send anybody to a place called hell where they are going to be in some fire burning up.
And can I just add to that, Sean, quickly, that this is Garfield, that heaven or hell is not the point of following God in Jesus Christ.
Correct.
It is totally not the point of it.
So true.
I see some people blowing it out of proportion. I wish most church would think the same and come with the same procedures.
Things mix up.
Yeah, we're all not gonna think the same way. I think and this is why it is so important for us to have respectful conversations and listen to each other. And rethink some of what we were taught. You know?
I think Mr. Guthrie wanted to say something.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The last comment that you don't think there is a hell. Is that to say you don't think there's a hell and there's a heaven?
That there are geographical locations.
No.
But we're not going to go through that tonight.
No, but this is a you don't believe that there's a hell or a heaven?
Let me rephrase the statement. I do not think of heaven and hell in terms of geographical locations. To wrap it all up, I would borrow words from the hymn writer who says, "To walk with thee is heaven, to turn aside from thee, meaning God, is hell."
Yes. Indeed.
Okay, so let me continue though, because I want to draw an analogy with this analogy. I want you to ponder. If somebody, I understand, and Dr. Aarons might be able to say more on this. I understand that some people, once they get in the habit of killing others, they love it. And they love killing it. They can't sleep without, if they don't kill somebody, they feel as if things not going right for them. What if somebody were to come to you or any one of us as Christians and say, "This is my situation. I have to kill somebody"? Would it be the answer? Could the answer be that you say to the person, "Go right and God, the loving God, won't judge you for that," or something to that effect? Or would it have to be some other way that we deal with a person who must speak life? I just want to know. I'm not being judgmental. I just want to hear what would the answer be.
Okay, so a part of whenever someone comes to me for counseling, a part of what is called informed consent, and something that I present in the interest of transparency. I let the person know up front, if you indicate to me any at all that you have any intention to hurt yourself or somebody else, I cannot guarantee confidentiality. in such matters.
Okay, somebody, this man ought to kill himself.
Also to note that where there is a presentation of pathology, it is cause for concern. Where there is a presentation of the possible or potential or intending breach of human rights, it's a cause for concern.
And can I also add, Father Sean, to answer that question? You don't have to turn that person to a spiritual answer. The law will let him know that he did something wrong. If he decides that he wants to kill someone, all you have to say is look at the legal consequence. You're going to spend your life in prison, regardless of his religion or his spiritual.
And that person needs help.
The natural law tell you that you did something wrong, even if you have no religion.
All right, can I add a few? Can I add something to that also?
Sure.
We talk about the law. We talk about seeing that you can't help him if he is out. You know that there's persons that I've spoke to somebody. I mean, somebody that's gone do so much. Right now, he's not doing that no more. Reason being is that I took that person into my arm and I said to that young man, and I said, listen, tell me about your past. Let me find out exactly where all of this started. And when he sat down and was talking to me, and he told me so much things, and I rest my hand on his shoulder and I said, my brother, listen to me. God is here for all of us. God knows what you've been through before. God knows what you're going through now. God knows the first thing that comes to your mind in the morning, you can't afford certain things, is to pick up the gun, go and get what you have to get. I said to him, brother, no, it's not like that. All right. I have $1 here, and I split that dollar for me and you. I get up in the morning and I go there and I have a job. And I came back and I say, yo, here what? Just clean up their stuff for me. And and I give him $1. And I keep on handing to him until I brought him out and I invite him to certain people. And only to know that I got him into a job. And that young man, let me tell you, the amount of things that he has done before. But all some of us really need is a guidance. It's guidance. Sorry, it's guidance. Because as far as me see, if I wasn't there for him right there then, I know that right now he would be under the ground. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. You understand? Some of these people are just going through some horrible times.
That is true. That happens too.
With stress and keep on living with all kind of things. So it's keep on getting to them over and over. The only thing they see is to pick that gun up and go and make a dopey. He can't see anything else. That's the only thing he can see, to go there and make a dopey. Because guess what? He make the first one and it enticed him and it keep elevating. It's an elevation because somebody come and say, yo, me go give you $1 to go kill that man.
Thank you for that, Ricardo. It reminds us that we really need to facilitate more mental health care and sensitize the appreciation for mental health care in our population.
Perfect.
Question. So back to the gender identity thing and about the entire sexual thing. It's just a statement, sorry. Because I'm going to a Catholic school right now, and I really can't believe that they don't teach about these things in school or in high school. So yeah, I just have to make that statement because it's really exposing to things that I've never even known that exist in this world. So yeah, just to say.
So we come now to transgender. Transgender, an umbrella term referring to an individual whose gender identity is different from their biological sex assigned at birth. So normally, usually, we would expect that if somebody's biological sex assigned at birth is girl, because there is a vagina or the biology, yeah, because of that, we would expect the individual to understand their gender to be female. However, what this is saying is that there may be individuals, there are individuals born with a vagina. However, the gender that the person identifies with is not female, but male. By now, I think it's a little easier to kind of process that. What is gender expression? The external display of one's gender through a combination of appearance, disposition, social behavior, and other factors, generally measured on a scale of masculinity and femininity. And something I like to refer to when I think of gender expression, I used to observe when I lived in the Cayman Islands, and also when I lived on Anguilla, when I was with the Diocese of Northeastern Caribbean and Aruba. And I go inside the supermarket. It was significant, a significant difference when you see a man take up a shopping basket and put it on his arm. Because in Jamaica, men, generally speaking, don't put a shopping basket on their arm, they hold it in their hand. Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Because societal norms say that a man should not hold a bag or a basket on his arm. So gender expression, the external display of one's gender through a combination of appearance, disposition, social behavior, and other factors, generally measured on a scale of masculinity and femininity. Gender norms, the definitions and expectations of what it means to be a woman or girl and a man or boy, as well as the sanctions for not adhering to those expectations. Gender norms vary across cultures and over time, and often intersect with other factors such as race, class, age, and sexual orientation. That's clear for everybody? Gender norms.
Yes.
Yes.
And Dr. Aarons would have referred to this last week, the whole matter of the continuums, acknowledging that, so when we come to gender identity, for example, everybody seeing the continuums here? The gender identity, gender expression, biological sex, yes? So none of us are exactly at the same point, really, on these continuums. So in this group, if we were to go through this group this evening, this Bible study group this evening, and try to examine where on this does this person fit, that person fit, that person fit, we would find that we're not exactly at the same points. And it's not a case of one exactly over on the left or one exactly over on the right, because the research is telling us that about 10% would be on the left, to the extreme left, 10% to the extreme right, and in between 80% falling along the continuum. How is that for us? We're processing that all right? Hello?
Yes, Father.
Thinking about it, yes.
Yes, Father.
Yes.
All right. All right. So I think we really sitting down here and listening to you I definitely think we need for this thing to go like worldwide because people is taking things totally different. Because I'm here trying to pinpoint a lot of different things going through my mind and all that, but to be honest with you, out there in the world, it's a total different thing.
And let me tell you something, there is a lot of confusion among our teenagers and our high school children just because this information has not been facilitated.
And that's why the conversation begins with us. We have got to spread the word, engage others, let them think deeper than any shallow thoughts they may have and think of simply black and white. The conversation continues. Over to you, Father Sean.
Thank you.
And also, Father Sean, and I don't want, people are very, very interested in the topic. Just to say that there is another week of study that will continue this, not
That's
next
right.
week, the following week, since there is Ashwin in the world. Part of what it means to share about God and life and love and God's love for the world. Sharing with people information like this and walking with people through situations like this is absolutely a part of our mandate as church, part of our mission and part of the mission of God in the world in which we are called to share. So starting with us, 60 something of us who are in this group now, I think that's a pretty good number to make a difference.
True. True. So GSD, gender and sexual diversity, is not a topic in the Bible. This does not mean that Christians should avoid the subject of gender and sexual diversity. The biblical writers spoke within the limitations of the information available to them on any matter that they were concerned with. Remember, we started this presentation with a reference to a sexual minority in Deuteronomy 23, verse 1. It gave directions, keeping the eunuch away from the congregation of the faithful. There are many things in the Bible that we do not do as Christians. It should be noted that we often see an evolution in theological thought, both in the Bible and in human experience. Although there is that stipulation regarding eunuchs in Deuteronomy, note that when we get to the New Testament, one of the earliest converts to Christianity is a eunuch. In Acts 8, 26 to 39, the Ethiopian eunuch requests baptism and is born into the church. Would the Ethiopian eunuch find a ready welcome in your church today? Do you know why eunuchs were despised as much as they were valued? Hear more about this in part 2. I hope this was a useful presentation. Do we have any questions or comments?
Awesome stuff, awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Yes, it was very good, and I think we really have to continue it. A lot of us think that we know a lot of things, and when it comes to the crunch, we really don't know. So, we continue on the journey.
I have to say, yes, indeed. Very, 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 very powerful tonight. Let me tell you, I've learned a lot tonight. Because all along I was looking at them as wrong people of such gross humanity. You understand? I was judging them before. I was judging them. I'm not going to lie to you. I was judging them. I was thinking that directly something really wrong with them. That's why them having the hormone problems and stuff. But to be honest with you, I never know that people had born with those issues. And that would be the cost of it. I've always have a dark mind or a dark mindset towards those type of persons. But let me tell you, tonight, may I tell you, say, I will not see someone and judge someone. I will not do that.
And that is the idea of our studying, you know.
Amen, amen.
That is the idea of studying. This is how people are to be empowered to think about life. And when we look at the Gospels, we see that so much of what happened there really was Jesus challenging the taboos of his day and challenging the particular practices that oppressed people and preventing them from experience they're full of self and that the abundant life.
And just to add, Father Sean, as we wrap up, to that, often we believe that showing compassion and love and mercy and being non-judgmental means that we have to always agree with people.
Yeah.
You don't always have to agree with people, but the love of God in Jesus Christ bids us to be compassionate and caring and non-judgmental, because sometimes we walk such different paths in this life.
Yes.
And many times these different paths lead to the same God in Jesus Christ. So compassion and love has to be the way for us as people who follow Jesus, because any cursory glance at his life, you will see that.
And let me just note that once you come to a new level of awareness about humanity, about identity, about human sexuality, once you come to that deeper awareness, there is no turning back. You find that you have a duty to move away from stereotyping others, to move away from stigmatizing and practicing discrimination in a negative way against others. And you come to realize that you have a duty to not take part in ridiculing. You know, how we have been socialized in our context is this. When people are ridiculing somebody who is of a particular minority status, maybe a sexual minority status, so as not to be stigmatized and to become a victim of the name calling and all that, we just join in. We just join in.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, can you imagine if someone said earlier, that's about 60 of us are on. Now, if 60 of us understand each other and human sexuality more than we did before we came into this discussion, can you really imagine the impact it will be? And if we continue, so let us think on these things and see how we can help others.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for that, Carol. This is Garfield Campbell, by the way. And we are going to continue this study on the 24th at the same 7 p.m., being led by Father Sean. Next week, Wednesday, the 17th, is Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday, yes.
Yes. So we pause for Ash Wednesday and then return on the 24th. And we will have the wrap-up session of this Bible study. Father Sean, it's over you to close with prayer. And it's the same login information to get in the study. And invite people to come along.
Wonderful.
Right.
Wonderful.
We will.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this another opportunity for us to have fellowship, to reflect together, to learn together, to grow together. And we continue to surrender to your will and the purpose of love, of peace, of justice. We pray that you would bless us and guide us even as we close this session, and grant that in our homes and among our friends and neighbors, we would seek to always to be agents of your peace and your love. Bless your servants now, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody.
And to
Yeah.
you too, friends. God
Thank
bless you.
you. Thanks, Brother Sean. Thanks, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you for letting us
Enjoy,
understand it a little bit
enjoy your
more.
evening and be safe.
Thank you.
Please do keep safe.
Thank you for letting us
And
understand
remember,
it a little
curfew
bit
has
more.
started.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope that all home.
8
Okay,
o'clock
bye.
it started at 8. Night.
Night, night.
Good night. Good night.
Night, night.